Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining this demo this morning. Myself, Vijay, and I have experience around 14 plus years now. And I started with the Salesforce admin, and then later I was moved into the development, and then I completely moved into the DevOps area where it's been like 10 years now. We're currently focusing on all the DevOps architect models and DevOps areas with respect to the Salesforce. So when I say Salesforce DevOps, it is completely different from outside DevOps. So you'll not have Kubernetes or you will not have any um, Amazon Web Services, something like that. You don't have anything with respect to um, the DevOps technologies that we are going to learn as a part of a Salesforce. So majorly here, what we are going to learn throughout the course is that we are going to learn the Salesforce admin basics. When I say admin basics, you are new to Salesforce, it's like one or two classes which we are going to understand on a high level, like what I need who are non-Salesforce guys. It's just like creating a Salesforce account and then creating a user and then what is meant by profile. So it's like the basic concept, maybe 1 or 2 days it is needed uh, just to understand the concept. You don't need to you don't need to learn the complete Salesforce admin part here, but it just required some basic knowledge on how the UI navigation works and how the user creation should be done in terms of Salesforce, right? So there are many tools that are available with respect to the deployments when it comes to Salesforce. Earlier, the Salesforce has internal tool, the chain sets, and the chain sets having a limitation. When I say limitation, you cannot connect to a repository. You cannot see what changes are getting deployed. You don't know what's happening around what is being deployed. It's like you will select the components from the grid and then you will deploy it, and later people will raise a concern that my code is overridden or some of the components are not deployed properly, etc., etc. You'll be seeing a lot of issues which every developer will be raising concerns, and there is no tool that helped the Salesforce guys. Um, I mean, like it's like 2013, 14, where chainsets are being very major and people are using it very vastly. And later you have a tool called Ant, where using Ant tool, you can see the package.xml and you can build the components on your, you can see the metadata, what is getting deployed, and it's Ant is deprecated now, which means that you cannot use Ant anymore now. Suppose that you have a workbench. So as the tools are evolving, as the Salesforce is evolving, the new tools are coming in. That is where you have a new tool called Workbench, where the same concept Workbench also, it doesn't connect anything to repository. It is like something like you will have a package.xml and then you use the package.xml to retrieve and deploy. And Workbench is not a trusted one. When I say trusted one, it is an open source one, and some of the companies Workbench is blocked by the respective companies where you cannot do some of the deployments with Workbench. Later, you got Bamboo into picture, where and also Jenkins, where people write the shell scripting, or what are the scripting languages that you have it right. So you write some scripting languages, you connect Bamboo with Salesforce or Jenkins with Salesforce and used to the deployments through a repository connected. So it's a well advanced where connecting to Bamboo through a GitHub or a GitLab or Bitbucket, any of the repository that you connect, and then you do the deployments. But here is the catch, where if you want to do the deployments using Bamboo or Jenkins, right, you need to understand in Git little bit, where you need to create a feature branches and later you need to merge those feature branches to a respective branch and then you need to do a deployment. The problem comes here where some of the business people and some of the developers doesn't know that how Git works, and they don't know how to merge some of the changes they used to do frequent changes, some of the frequent changes incorrectly, and some of the changes merging it improper way, and the merge conflicts also they don't know how to do it. And that is where people are looking for a tool where it should be UI based, right? And it would help them to resolve some of the conflicts on its own. And that is where you got a tool called Copado. So Copado is a Salesforce managed package tool, which means that which is built on top of Salesforce. When I say which is built on top of Salesforce, it uses Apex language. And that is where if you know Salesforce, Copado will be very easy because the UI part is all the UI part, whatever Salesforce follows, Copado follows the same thing. The backend logic is completely depends on the Git and the Apex. And the competitor for Copado is the Flowsum. It's the same tool which is built on top of Salesforce, but different features compared to Copado. And you have some other tools which is not built on top of Salesforce, but you have available in the market. One is AutoRapid and one is GateSet. So all these tools, what it does is that it will try to help you to do the deployments. And later you got some of the new pipelines. One is GitHub Actions. Second one is the GitLab pipelines. And the third one is Azure DevOps. Let me put this way. So if you want to do a UA based deployment, which means that I want to resolve the conflict resolution by tool itself. I want to just click on a button so that the deployment should take place. If I click on some button, if I click on a commit, automatically my commit has to take place. If you want this kind of requirement, then you need to go for a tool called Copado or a Flowsum. If you want to do the things manual on your own, and when I say manual, if you want to create a feature branch and later if you want to resolve the conflicts, etc., then you have a different tools called GitHub Actions or a Bitbucket pipelines or a GitLab pipelines or the Azure DevOps. All these four tools which I'm talking about, it also requires a separate maintenance called agents, where in terms of GitLab, we need to have a machine where if you want to run it on a particular machine, right? I mean, let's say you written some code and you want to execute it, so it should run on a machine. So if you want to have agents, right, then you need to pay some amount to have the agents. So it means that if you go for a different tool, it doesn't mean that the cost is not there. Cost we have everywhere, and you need to pay and use it when it comes to the agents. So when I say agents, the agents is a keyword which is used in terms of the Azure DevOps. In the GitLab pipelines, we used to call some tags um, where you need to have a dedicated runners. So if you don't have a dedicated runners, your job will go in a queue and you need to wait for other job to get completed. So some of the jobs you can run it on free, but it has some limit. Daily you have some limit to run it. So later, when all these tools are evolving, Salesforce has came up with another tool called DevOps Center, which means that it's also UI based, but it has a lot of limitations where you cannot connect to different repositories. For example, if you have a repository called the Bitbucket, you cannot connect. It has only one, as far as I remember, it has only one which is connecting to Git. But if something comes up new, I haven't checked it. Maybe I need to check if some new repository it is supporting. So currently it supports only GitHub, where you can commit some of the changes and you can do the deployment. It's a basic thing that Salesforce has provided with the DevOps Center. It is still evolving. It's kind of a tool, same thing, kind of a tool like a Copado. It's still evolving. But if you ask me, a lot of people they use Copado because it's UI friendly and where you can commit the changes or where you can resolve the conflicts and everything on its own because you have a buttons over there available where you can ask Copado to give you the conflict resolution automatically or whatever the features that it has, right? It has more features compared to other tools. So with that, these are the tools that are available in the market and where you use it on daily basis. But if I talk about the Salesforce DevOps tools, right, these are the tools. But when you go outside the market, when it comes to the DevOps tools, you have Kubernetes and you have a Docker image and you have etc. etc. but you don't require all these external technologies to be fit in Salesforce, right? So in Salesforce, you just need these tools to move a, to move the components from one arc to another arc, right? So as a part of this course, what we are going to learn is that we are going to learn the workbench deployment, and also we are going to learn the VS Code deployment, which means that the VS Code with the SFCLI, right? Using the some of the commands using Salesforce CLI, we are going to do the deployments using VS Code as well. And we're going to learn the Copado end-to-end. So when I say Copado end-to-end, Copado takes a lot of time, where in Copado we have two formats. One is the metadata format, one is the source format, where we need to learn both the things to 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 perform the deployments, because some of the companies will be on the old metadata format and some companies are moving from metadata format to source format. So where we need to learn the source format much. So you will have much. I mean, we will take much time on the Copado, and we're going to learn the GitLab pipelines and the Azure DevOps. So in four technologies, right? We have chosen two. One is GitLab pipelines, and second one is Azure DevOps. So if you ask me, right, the GitHub Actions, it's both the same. The syntax is different. If you can keep the same file and you can use the same file to GitHub Actions, but you need to change some of the syntaxes. But GitHub Actions, Bitbucket pipelines, GitLab pipelines, Azure DevOps, all these are run on an YAML file. So just only the syntax is different. The way of execution is the same. The way of deployment it is the same. The way of using the commands in all these tools are same. Just the syntax, how you define it, right? For example, here you say stages, something you call differently in GitHub Action, something you will call different in GitLab pipelines. Sorry, in Azure DevOps. So only the difference is that some of the syntax stack, but rest everything is same. So we're going to learn as a part of the course the GitLab pipelines and Azure DevOps, where we will create one script where YAML, where that script you commit some changes and automatically it should do a deployment to the next environment. So we're going to learn that as a part of this course for the GitLab pipelines and the Azure DevOps. And then we are going to talk the Salesforce a refresh strategy process for a full copy sandbox. What are the steps that involve when you refresh a Salesforce full copy sandbox or a developer sandbox? What are the steps that I need to perform when you refresh or when you click on a sandbox refresh? That we are going to learn, and we are going to talk on the change management process. When I say change management process, as soon as your release is ready, what are the next steps? How the change management process works? We are going to talk in a not in a practical way, in a oral. I mean to say how the change management process is there. What are the what you need to do to get your change request gets approved, and how the release calendar works, and in a real time, how what are the keywords that you need to understand when you join a new organization with so and so experience, and if you want to understand that how the change management process works and how the Salesforce change management process, especially when I say Salesforce change management, some of the um, Salesforce deployments we do very frequently. Like some people will do one weekly once, and some do weekly twice, and some do 2 weeks and 4 weeks. Some people will do 1 month, right? So which means that every week you have a deployment which is going to production. So what are the when you have a P1 issue, what how you need to tackle the situation, and what would be the pipeline path? So we are going to talk on some of the branching strategies and also some of the pipelines, sample pipelines that we are going to talk. And we are going to talk on Salesforce latest, if any new steps. When I say any new steps, as a part of a refresh activity, if Salesforce has brought up any new technologies and tools that we need to know, make a note that you just join the course or you're sharing a screen. Not at this point of time. I'm not sharing anything at this point of time. I'm just trying to give you some um, knowledge on what we're going to learn as a part of the course. I'm sorry. I may need to. I would have shared the screen. I would have put the points there. Let me do that for you guys. And if it come, I mean, etc. I mean, if something comes to my mind, I may need to add some of the things to this list, right? Let's have the basic one piece of demo with respect to this Copado, right? So let me give you some brief introduction about Copado. So what is meant by this Copado and why this tool is more famous in the market? So when all tools are being worked with Bamboo and Jenkins, Copado came into picture. Why? Because as a business analyst or a developer is facing very difficult in committing some of the changes or understanding how Git works, right? They need to learn this to make some of the changes to the branches. So that is where Copado has came up with a tool, and they said that you don't need to do commit outside Git, which means that you don't need to use Git commit or Git add or Git push, where you can learn where you can do the deployments without that, right? So how do you do that? So for that, you need to log into uh, one of the instance called Copado. So for getting Copado right, so here is the catch. In Copado, we are going to practice using Playground, and post that we will install the package on personal log, but we cannot deploy any changes using personal log. But using Playground, you can deploy the changes what you want to do it, right? So for that, you can go to successcopado.com. This is a portal where you need to register for Playground. So once you register for a Playground, then you can get the metadata format and source format, both the formats. You can create two playgrounds, and this playground will be valid for 30 days, right? So in Copado, if you want to do a commit changes, right? When I say commit in Git, what you do when you want to do a commit, you make some change and you use a command called git commit -m message, and you will give some message tag. When it comes to commit in Copado, you have a UI and you have a button called commit. So when you click on that button, what it does is that it will try to pick the changes. What are the changes that you want to select, right? You need to select those changes, and then you can click on commit changes back so that the changes will be committed to feature branch automatically. The catch here is that you are not doing anything manual here. Everything is in an automated way. When I say automated way, if you want to commit the changes to a branch, you need to have a Git installed, and the Git install, you need to use some of the commands to commit something to the Git. When it comes to Copado, it is an automated way where when you click on a button called commit in Copado, what it does is that it will do a commit automatically based on your selection to a feature branch. The changes will get added. And if you want to resolve a conflict in Git, you need to take it to your local, and then you need to sit and understand and you need to resolve some of the conflicts. In Copado, you have a feature called auto resolution, where Copado uses some strategies to resolve the conflicts. So when I say some strategies, it has some strategies which it uses, which we cannot see it because it's a managed package. We cannot see the logic of how it is being done, but it uses some logic to resolve some of the conflicts on its own. And you don't need to worry that if you get a conflict from when you're doing a deployment from dev to the next target instance, you don't need to worry because if you have any conflicts, Copado take care of the conflict resolution automatically. So, and also it has some other features where you can integrate Copado with Jira, Copado with Azure, where the stories, when you create a story in Zira, automatically that story will create it in Copado as well, where you no need to specifically create a user story in Copado for doing commit any changes or doing any next steps. So there is lot of automation that is being done on this particular tool where it's just drag and drop which you need to do it. So who are Salesforce or non-Salesforce guy, everybody can do it very easily when it comes to Copilot. But there are people who expect in the market that you know this technology or not, you know this technology or not. So that is where what we are going to learn, right? So we're going to learn Workbench, starting with Workbench and the VS Code, where the basic stuff starts from here. And then post that we are going to learn the automated way. And post that we are going to learn with the technologies, with the latest technologies that comes in the market, where you write your shell scripting and you can use the shell scripting to run the GitLab pipelines and Azure DevOps. So that's fine if you don't know the shell scripting. You all know that we have the artificial intelligence AI. It's still evolving. And if somebody asks you that to write, to ask, I mean, if somebody asks you that, can you implement a pipeline using Azure DevOps? If you understand the fundamental concepts, use the chat GPT or the Copilot, whatever you have the tools, and you can write the scripting on your own. When I say on one, you need to get the scripting from the tool, copy and paste it. But the catch here is that you need to understand whether the tool is giving you the right or wrong, right? So for that, you need to understand some of the basics when it comes to the shell scripting or the YAML scripts, right? So YAML takes 1 day of time. You just need to understand the YAML indentation. It's not something if I explain you, you guys will not understand because YAML follows the indentation process. If you understand the indentation rate, it is very easy to learn YAML. So if you ask me, do I need to learn everything here? You keep some of the things as your backup, where um, you put Copado as a front-end technology that you know this from end to end, where you have done multiple pipelines that you created using Copado, and you tell them that you used Workbench and the VS Code that you have done using the deployments using manual way as well, and you tell them that we use the GitLab pipelines and Azure DevOps also for doing the deployments in keys. We like the future technologies also which we are learning as a part of it. I learned the GitLab pipelines and Azure DevOps also. Something like that. You can if you want to crack an interview, you can tell some of these things as a part of the interview process. When it comes to Salesforce, there are many things which you cannot deploy it. That is where you have these tools. And why you need a DevOps engineer? You can do everything in automated way, right? Why you need a particular DevOps engineer in the market for Salesforce especially? Because you cannot deploy everything. There are a lot of manual steps that you need to get executed by a particular person. So we need somebody to help when it comes to the deployment. So that is where in the market, people are looking for a Salesforce DevOps engineer to do some of the manual steps, do the deployments, do the refresh activities, keep the sandboxes up to date, keep the platform up to date. For example, let's say Salesforce is, or let's say you have integrated with some other third party system. Salesforce is integrated with example Boomi, right? Now Boomi comes to you and says that we are changing the API key. Now who Boomi will reach out to? The primary contact will be the DevOps engineer. They will reach out, and from you again you are going to reach out to development team to get the details, and then you will update in the system, right? So the front facing of the Salesforce will be you when it comes to the user creation, when it comes to the platform maintenance, everything. For example, if somebody is changing something manually in or who is responsible? The Salesforce DevOps engineer is responsible because he need to make sure that he need to put strict quality gates, like not giving an admin permission to everybody. That responsibility comes to Salesforce DevOps engineer. The second responsibility is that the user creation process, it comes to you. The deployment process, Salesforce DevOps engineer. When it comes to the single sign-on or some other configurations in the system, platform related, it comes to Salesforce DevOps engineer. When it comes to raising a change request, maybe from a development team, but post that, making a changes to implemented status next, moving the changes to an approved state, getting the changes required and deploy it, etc. That comes under DevOps engineer. And refresh strategy. Every year we need to refresh the full copy sandbox. Suppose that you have to do a lot of manual steps. Who is responsible? The Salesforce DevOps engineer. Let's say if somebody got a deployment error, they cannot go ahead and then deploy some of the changes. Who is responsible? The DevOps engineer. Some code is overridden. The DevOps engineer. So now you understand that why this role is critical in the market and why people are looking for a Salesforce DevOps engineer to have them and help them on daily basis, right? Even though if you write 100% of automation of code, Salesforce will not support because Salesforce is having unsupported metadata types. You cannot deploy everything in Salesforce. You have to do some of the steps manual at any cost because Salesforce doesn't support via API. Let's say Salesforce has an instant analytics. When you create a sandbox from production, instant analytics is not automatically enabled. You need to go to setup, search for instant analytics, enable it manually. Same thing with the data cloud. So some of these things that need to be done by somebody. If your organization is very small, like one or two people, even though that one person who is there, right, he need to manage all these things along with his development area as well. If your company is like around 5 to 10 people, or like the project contains 10 to 12 people and you are using multiple sandboxes, then definitely a DevOps engineer is required for sure because to manage all the ad hoc activities that it is having, maintaining a platform, maintaining the users or deployments or the refresh process, whatever it has it. Thanks everyone. Thanks for your time who joined today. And what I would say is that just go for one or two classes and understand whether you are understanding my course or not, then you can decide. What I would say is that.